Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is feeling good, and I'm sure you're a little bored. So this is my third story. My dad was very strange growing up. He would go out and buy a car, doesn't tell anybody, bring it home. Hey, I bought a new car. One day he came home and he said, hey, I bought a house, we're going to all move. And this was a shock because my mom didn't even know we were going to move. So we packed up and moved out farther down Madison Street, which is in Chicago. And we moved to a real nice neighborhood. And it was all a Jewish neighborhood. And it was next to a big park. It was really nice. Then I had to change schools. So I went to St. Catherine of Siena grade school. It was just like our school, 2 classes in each grade level. And the only bad thing about it was a little over a mile away, and we walked every morning there and back. But we had all nuns taught us, and they were very strict. It was always Sister Mary Jane or Sister Mary Colette or something like that. Everybody had a Sister Mary something. Each room, it was a big school, 2-story, and each room had a cloak room where you hung up your coats and things like that. The nuns used corporal punishment. So if you got out of line, if you were misbehaving, some of them would bring you up to the front and slap your hand with a ruler. Others would put you in the cloakroom. I spent a lot of time in the cloakroom. Not that I was always bad, but sometimes you think things are funny and they don't. So I spent some time in the cloakroom. When I was in 4th grade, I joined the choir boys. Back then, it was an all-boy choir and an all-men's choir. And every Sunday, the men and the boys got together and would sing at midnight, 12 o'clock Mass, which was a formal Mass where they had 3 priests up there. And they called it a high Mass. So it was. I had a pretty good voice, I guess. The boys, the reason they use boys is because when a young boy has a pure voice, and he can easily hit a high C. Our choir was pretty famous. We were on TV even. There were only 3 channels, but we were on TV once. One time we went, one of the cardinals died, and we were one of 30 choirs that filled this cathedral, and there were 2,000 choir people singing, and it was quite something. We had a beautiful church. St. Catherine's was like a small cathedral. Up in the choir loft, you couldn't, if you threw a rock, you couldn't hit the altar. That's how far away it was. And it had big, tall ceilings with a beautiful painting and arches, and it was a beautiful church. And I always liked going to Mass at 12 o'clock Mass and sitting in the choir loft and singing. I was always tempted to look at the stained glass, though, throughout the whole church on either side. And being up on the choir loft, you were pretty close to all the stained glass. So I would watch it, and then when the choir director was ready for us to sing, I was busy looking at the stained glass. So one day after church, I spent the entire for an hour, and I had to walk up and down the church and spend 5 to 10 minutes at each stained glass window. And she said that maybe then I wouldn't be looking away when we're supposed to be singing. They loved the choir there. They had every summer we went to a summer camp for a week up in Wisconsin, where they had the lake and games and all kinds of fun. We had stayed in cabins according to your age group. So if you're in fourth grade, you were in the fourth grade, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. By the time you were in eighth grade, though, all my friends were getting out of the choir because their voice was changing. And if you didn't have you couldn't hit the high C, you weren't useful in the boys' choir. So I started faking like I could hit the high C probably when I was a junior in high school, because I was a very late developer, and so I talk like this a lot, you know, and so I would fake like I had, you know, yeah, I couldn't hit the high notes or anything like that. I'd grab my throat, and so sometimes we fooled around too much in choir before mass or during practice and everything. We would practice once a week at night, and so she made this rule: if she caught anyone fooling around during choir practice, that she would kick them out of the choir and kick them out of all sports and kick them out of the altar boys. I was in the altar boys, I was in the choir, and I was in the patrol boys, and I also, this was right after football season, so football season was done, and so one Sunday she didn't come. Her and her husband ran. The husband ran the men's choir, and she ran the choir, the boys. So it was Sunday right before Mass, and we were down in the basement of the church, and we'd do our warm-ups, you know, fa la la la, you know, and they'd sing all the different notes. And the men were there, and the boys were there, and neither one of the directors were there, so I decided to get up in the front of everybody and direct everyone in the choir. And, you know, and they were all doing this, and I was into this, and she came in, and she was so upset that she said, "John, leave right now, you're done." So I left. And the next day I found out that I was out of patrol boys, out of the choir, out of all sports and everything for the rest of the year. I was not about to tell my parents that this happened, so I kept it a secret until, you know, today, that this happened to me. I would never tell anyone that I was banished from school. So I was like a little vegetable out there. I think if I went, you know, if a teacher or says something really drastic that would happen to you, but I was too hard-headed to go back and talk to her. I think I could have been reinstated to the patrol boys and sports and things like that, and the altar boys. But I was just too hard-headed to go and talk to her. But if something like that ever happens to you when you're young and in school, and a teacher threatens that she's going to do something, and it happens to you, I thought it was pretty drastic. I don't think they ever did it to anyone else. I was just like the guinea pig that had to do it. So don't be afraid to go to your teacher if you think the punishment was too hard. Don't be afraid to go and tell her that, hey, I need another chance. You know, I need another chance, so please let me reinstate me. Or, you know, I think we do a lot of lunch detentions and things like that at our school, but in in my school, that was pretty drastic punishment. I don't think anybody ever had that before. So just remember, if you misbehave and things like that, yes, you deserve a punishment, but sometimes the punishment is worse than the action. So remember, and be good this whole week coming up. Later on, I'm going to have another video with. We're going to make masks that you need when you go outside now, and I'm going to make a game. So stay tuned for the next video coming soon. Thanks.